All right. Do you feel a change on the rise? Welcome, everyone, to Beyond the Veil. This is Dustin Barr, the one and only. I can't wait to share with you guys today. I've got a wild one. First, let me make sure you guys can hear me okay. Okay. Someone's asking about what the music and what the music is and who's it by. Today, I played for you guys Black Sheep. I can't even remember the guy's name that. Let me see. Pull it up real quick for you. I usually post it, and I'm real sorry. I've been kind of busy this morning. But anyway, it's called Black Sheep. I'll post that sometime underneath in the comment sections. You'll see that down there. Don't want to get sidetracked. But I want to tell you guys, today is going to be literally crazy. Okay. I can't believe how much stuff has been like right there in front of our face the whole time. And by that, I mean, in conjunction to everything we've talked about over the last, I don't know how long, putting everything together and literally just looking at this huge picture that has been painted for us over the past while. It's wild. It's crazy. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about the Pumpkin King or the Trumpkin King or Jack Skeleton or Jack O'Lantern. We're going to be talking about a lot of Jack today. Okay. And by Jack, if you've been paying attention in the past 3 to 20 live streams, you've learned that Jack literally means James and John. Okay. But today I've got a real crazy one for you as far as that whole Jack thing, just to prove it even further. Um, I'm not going to reveal who the Trumpkin King is without you taking a guess. I'm not going to reveal it to the end, I don't think. But I'm going to do some math, all right? I'm going to present some things in front of you and I'm going to let you add them together, okay? And then by the end of this presentation, I will show you someone who has already been referred to as what I've posted in the name of this video, as far as the Headless Horseman, okay? That way I won't run off anybody that happens to be a big fan of someone, or some said person that has made a huge impact on their life and made them feel like that man has saved you from something huge, okay? We'll get into who that man is in here a little bit, okay? Just remember there's one savior, okay? All right. And it's not the Trumpkin King, okay? Today we're going to be looking into first, let me see. Let me get my screen share going. First thing we're going to look into is the jack-o'-lantern. Okay, everybody's like, wow, this is really random, really random. Oh, you don't even know. Okay, check this out. First, you're going to be looking at the jack-o'-lantern. All right, but you can't look at the jack-o'-lantern without first, realizing what the jack-o'-lantern's for. Is jack-o'-lantern for Easter, or is it for like Christmas? Which pagan holiday is it for? Well, if you go look at just Halloween, like right here, well, it's actually the symbol for Halloween is a jack-o'-lantern. A jack-o'-lantern itself is, Halloween itself is represented by a jack-o'-lantern. A jack-o'-lantern, the carving and displaying, which is a Halloween tradition. The tradition of Halloween is centered, I'm going to prove to you tonight, about a man named Jack. Okay? And this is going to whop your head silly, okay? I'm telling you, it's crazy. Halloween itself, and I'm very, very aware about nothing new under the sun and the Babylonian traditions of paganism. I am talking about this. For example, I'm going to ask you guys a question here. A lot of you have been paying attention with my 1,000-year range stuff, and we're in the short season. I see somebody asked me to remove the banner. That's fine. I'll do that. Hold on one sec. Man, I don't want to get sidetracked. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Okay, so all right, I got that removed for whoever's doing that. Now I really want you guys to focus in the chat box. Don't be focusing on other little things or things we haven't talked about yet or things we haven't gotten to in general. Listen to this one because I don't want you to miss it. All right? I'm going to ask you a question right now, you guys. All right? When, okay, when did we start celebrating Halloween in general? Anyone who want to take a guess? You can even put it within a 100-year period. I want to see who's going to get it first. If I believe the 1,000-year reigns behind us, like I said, Satan's been loose. There's been the mud flood of Tartary that he spewed out after the woman because he was mad because he knew his time would be short. And then he goes to stir up the nations in war. Anybody want to tell me when you believe that we started celebrating Halloween, especially here in America, not to mention Ireland, where it began? Nope, Miss Angela, you're close. Go back a little further. I'm going to prove a date even earlier than that. Melissa, you're close. Just go forward like 70 some, maybe around there. It was the 1600s, okay? And I'm going to pull that up for you in depth. You'll get all kinds of numbers looking all over the place on Google, but I'm going to pull this thing and track it down to a lot, all right? So this is also important because during my last live stream I did with you guys, I showed you a whole lot of other pagan traditions that were brought back in the table around the 1500s and 1600s, okay, dealing even with Frosty the Snowman and its writer and all that things that we talked about in our last decode, which is important. If you're new to this channel and you're already intrigued, you should have seen our last one, okay? Because this is only going to add to it. I thought I was done with the whole crazy one. All right. This video right here blew my mind. Okay. I want you to go listen to this video when you get a chance. Okay. Please go watch this video and listen to all the folklore and fairy tales and fables, etc., that are centered around Peter, James, and John. Okay. All right. I don't know why it's not letting me back to my thing. Anyway. I'm going to go and exit out of that one. Okay. I want you to go watch that video sometimes because here's some of the things we talked about. We talked about Jack and Jill who went up a hill to fetch a pail of water. Okay. We talked about, man, we talked about Peter Rabbit, Peter Cottontail, Peter Pan. We talked about, I mean, it was a whole lot. And then I even told you around it, they were all written by James and John, James and John, John and James. And then we went through Peter Pan and that whole mind blowing thing of that, because you also can't talk about Peter, James, and John without talking about Mary. It's always Mary is the mother figure or the wife figure, one of the two. And then there's her children, Peter, James, and John. Goldilocks and her three bears. All right. Or you can say Dorothy and her three accompanied pets, okay, that turn out to be her uncle. We can go on and on. That thing was mind-blowing, but this one's even more mind-blowing to me if you enjoyed that decode, okay? It's nuts how much Mary, Peter, James, and John are scattered all throughout our history, like Bloody Mary. And Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. I wonder who Mary's little lamb was. Well, that was Christ. Everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go, okay? Even that one, you've got it. James and John being the writers and masterminds behind a lot of that as well. Okay. It's nuts. But just wait till you see this, because if you watch that, when you see that I pointed out the importance of understanding why it's always a Jack. Okay. Like Jack Sparrow played by Johnny Depp. Okay. But it's always a Jack character, like even the Titanic was Jack. But anyway, let's look at this, okay? Before you think I'm stretching, add about 80 hours of this stuff right here on top of all of this mind-blowing banana sandwich I'm about to hand you right now, okay? Jack-o'-lantern. Deep breath. Now, if you've been celebrating Halloween, I promise you won't after this. Okay? If you're one of those that's taking part in the pagan parts in the churches, and like you're in one of those church buildings and you see pumpkins around that children are carving, you'll be like, no, please, children, don't do that. What are you doing? Okay? Which is wonderful. That's the point of Ezekiel 33 Watchmen, is I'm exposing things for you to handle, because I have to tell you these things. That way you're warned. That way the blood's off of my hands. All right. Jack-o'-lantern is a carved lantern with a light source inside. That's what it means by a lantern, okay? Most commonly made from a pumpkin, or formerly a root vegetable, such as a mangel-wurzel, a rutabaga. I've been practicing my words, so I make sure I pronunciate them a little better for you guys tonight. Or a turnip. We're going to be talking about Turnip Trump or Donald Turnip. It's a crazy meme going around right now, by the way. Jack-o'-lanterns are associated with the Halloween holiday. Its name comes from the phenomenon of strange lights flickering over peat bogs, called jack-o'-lanterns, also known as will-o'-wisp. Don't get them confused, okay? Some of these are going to combine them. I'm trying to tell you, it's jack-o'-lantern and will-o'-wisp, okay? Hold on to that one because that one's really going to blow your mind. I want you to soak on that one for a minute, okay? Here we go. It suggests that the name also has ties to the Irish. I want to tell you guys the importance constantly of Scandinavia, of Norway, of Iceland, of Greenland, of all that place Donald Trump's obsessed with right now, okay? That is Hyperborean, okay? That is where the entrance into Hollow Earth is. This is the same obsession Hitler had right before the Holocaust. I hope everybody's putting this together. I've been trying to tell you, okay? This is exact same, all this is the exact same obsession that Hitler had during the Holocaust, and that was all going on while there was a huge distraction war going on at the same time. Keep all that in mind, and which brings me to this point. YouTube people who listen to everything I say as far as like all you people that actually work for YouTube. If you're listening right now, this is for entertainment purposes only. I am only reading and presenting facts to people for them to discern and figure out themselves, okay? And if you happen to delete this video and give me my third strike and take me off of YouTube, you are only exposing yourself to right now 86 people, not to mention how many are about to watch from this point forward. So if you would be smart, I wouldn't delete this video or chop it up because it's going to tell on yourself, especially if you flag it for all the things you have been lately. So there's that. That's behind me. Expose yourself if you want to, YouTube. Whew. It actually worked on my last video. Just so if you guys know that, you can watch the video and like there's only like one part cut out. You can see all the others. So yeah. All right. So here we go, guys. This is going to be crazy because here we go. The jack-o'-lantern is centered around a man named Stingy Jack. Or in other tales, he's called Greedy Jack or Sinful Jack. Okay, or Deceitful Jack. This one is, but it's all centered around Stingy Jack. Okay, he's a money tight wad. Okay, Stingy Jack, and he's Irish, Scandinavian, Nordic, all of the above. Okay, check this out. All right, it suggests that a name has ties to the Irish legend of Stingy Jack, a drunkard who bargains with Satan and is doomed to roam the earth with only a hollowed turnip to light his way. Okay? Before I go any further down the jack-o'-lantern page here, I want to tell you about Stingy Jack. Here's where some things get crazy. Stingy jack-o'-lantern, do you remember I told you guys 1,000 times here lately? Smith, like John Smith with the New World, okay? And constantly, the blacksmith, the world's first blacksmith was Cain in the world, by the way. Okay, hence the word smith, which means literal pan, an iron pan, an iron pot, like on Johnny Appleseed's head. Johnny Appleseed has Pan controlling his head. He is Pan, okay? The fertility wanderer of the face of the earth, distractor, the Baphomet marked with horns on his head as a beast, okay? Now, watch this, okay? Guess who Stingy Jack is? He's also referred to as Jack the Smith, aka Jack the Pan, or Jack the Iron Pan, Jack the Iron Man, or you can say, because you know that Robbie Downey Jr.'s middle name is John, right? Robert John Downey Jr., that's his name, and he's Iron Man, who dies and sacrifices himself for the whole world. Okay? He is Iron Man. He is Pan. He is Iron Pot. Okay? Jack the Smith, the Iron Pot. Okay? But he's also Drunk Jack or Flaky Jack or Jack-o'-lantern. Just to show you further that Stingy Jack is the centering of this Jack with the illuminated head. Now watch this. Let's read the tale of Jack-o'-lantern and see if we can come to conclusion of who Jack is. The romance of Jack-o'-lantern. Okay? Greater churl was never known on this earth than Stingy John. Wait, I thought his name was Jack. Nope, his name is John. John and Jack are interchangeable. Okay? So Jack-o'-lantern or Jack the Smith is John O'Lantern or John the Smith, okay? But this is Stingy John, the greedy Stingy John. From his door the poor were turned, unrivaled and cursed and spurned. See, he's greedy. He's got all his money. He's watching the world suffer. He's pretending to be a light for the world. Stingy John. Okay. Funny tale this is. One night Jack was homeward coming, midnight round this path a glooming. As he reached a riverside, someone near him moaned and cried. For the love of heaven, he said, mercy have and lend me aid. Wayward traveler am I. Leave me here, and I shall die. Stingy Jack's hard heart was touched, like the Grinch. Do you know who the Grinch is? Jim Carrey. Do you know his name is actually James Carrey? And do you know that his heart grew 3 times the size that day? Okay. So anyway, Stingy Jack's hard heart was touched. Quick the stranger he approached, raised him up upon his mare, brought him home, and fed him there. Okay, that's the romance of Jack-o'-lantern / John. I wanted to show you that one ultimately to show you his name, John. Okay, all right. Now, here's this. It's going even further because it gets nuts. Stingy Jack, or Jack the Smith, or John, whichever one you want to say, okay, from this point forward, okay? Him, all right? Let's look into him. He's a mythical character sometimes associated with All Hallows Eve. While also acting as a mascot of the holiday, the jack-o'-lantern may be derived from the character. An 1836 edition, I'm not going to read all of this for you guys. I just want to point out some things down here. Let me look through here. Okay, boom. I want to look at the story. This is where it gets crazy. Before I read this, I want to point out some things I've already presented to you, okay? Cain was marked to be a wanderer of the earth. He could not ascend to the heavens, and he could not ascend to the pits of hell. He was not allowed into hell, okay? Hence the stories that were taken in the Bible that'll talk about all that in depth for you. If you would get out of your 66 marked Roman Catholic Church, what they've handed you half truths of King James, okay, and John Wycliffe, and their twisted hands in the Bible, okay? Well, anyway, I want to read you this about Stingy Jack because Cain was marked to be a wonder of the face, and God said to him, look, Cain was like, surely they'll kill me. Well, you're the first murderer, and you know, it is how it is. But God said, no, surely you shall not die, Cain. I will place, that's the whole thing. He placed the mark on, he said, surely you shall not die. Okay? He's to be a vagabond within the earth. But you've got to remember, even then, God blessed him in a sense. Surely you shall not die. Whoever kills you will get 7-fold poured out upon him, which is where the story of Tubal Cain comes from. Okay? Tubal Cain, you have Lamech in the field, a blind man. Okay? He's gone blind. He's out in the field. And then you have his son Tubal, who was literally called a trickster, a deceiver. Okay? Look up what his name means. Okay? He's just like another Cain. But check this out. Tubal is standing there next to Lamech, and he sees Cain, his grandfather, who had been marked and turned into a big, great beast wandering in the field. All right? Well, Tubal knew that he would get power if he killed Cain, but he also knew that revenge would be 7-fold on him if he was the one that actually killed him. So here's what he does. He convinces his blind dad, Lamech, to shoot Cain, the beast, with a marked horn protruding from his forehead. Can you wonder why we got a Baphomet in the world? Okay. And then later Nimrod has a shaft cut off, and then you wonder why he's considered a Baphomet. Just like Lucifer lost his, just like Osiris had lost his, and they could put everything together except for his shaft, hence Nimrod's shaft all over the place. Now he's a male and a female, which is why Lucifer, the light bearer on the shores of Babylon, has a masculine and feminine body part. Okay? Absolutely. So anyway, when that happened, Lamech, he gets cursed 7-fold, but because God knew what Tubal did, Tubal gets infected with the curse of Cain. Cain drops, Tubal drops. Tubal becomes Tubal Cain / Gilgamesh before the flood. / the Freemasonic obsession with Tubal Cain, the master builder again. Okay. And the Ark of Gilgamesh built by the hand, and this is their folklore story, that built their ark to survive with the Nephilim in the waters. All right. Which was ultimately, I believe, to be a submarine, if you want to be specific. One above, one below. Now, with that being said, same thing took place with Nimrod, Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was marked as a beast for 7 years into the field. Okay, same thing over and over again. We've talked about a whole lot to be wondrous. Cain should not die. This is why you have the Eye of Horus, Eye of Ra. They take over half your life. They control half your life. Okay, they are reigning with you. Okay, that's why every president goes through the Osiris Risen ritual, in which they come out with a black eye. Him too. Okay. Osiris Risen started with the New World, 1776. You got to realize who that was. George Washington was the first Baal. He was the first illuminated skull. He was the first Cain risen. Hence the restaurant, Raising Cane's, the feathered serpent, your chicken that you're eating, okay? Raising Cane's. You ever wonder where that comes from? You're raising Cain. You're raising Cane's from the pits of hell. All right. Now, here we go. This is nuts. All right. Let's read the story of Stingy Jack now that I've told you all of that. As the story of Stingy Jack goes, several centuries ago in Ireland, there lived a drunkard known as Stingy Jack. He was known throughout the land as a deceiver and a manipulator. On a fateful night, Satan overheard the tale of, I'm going to say John because we know that he's now identified as John, okay? Just to clarify some things for you. Satan overheard the tale of John's evil deeds and silver tongue. And he's greedy. He's got a whole lot of money. He's good with his tongue, and he's got a lot of evil deeds. Unconvinced and envious of the rumors, the devil went to find out for himself whether or not John lived up to this vile reputation. Typical of John, he was a drunk and wandering through the countryside at night when he came upon a body on his cobblestone path. The body, with an eerie grimace on its face, turned out to be the devil himself. John realized that this was the end. Satan had finally come to collect his malevolent soul. So, Jack made one last request. He asked the devil to let him drink ale before he departed to hell. Finding no reason not to question where we at, Satan took Jack, and I realize I'm trying to read this. My eyes are so bad, and I'm on a little computer, so I'm doing my best to read this with you. Read it with me. That's why I have it pulled up on the screen there for you guys. Okay. Finding no reason to question, Satan took John to the local pub and supplied him with many alcoholic beverages. Upon quenching his thirst, John asked Satan to pay the tab for the ale, much to his surprise because he didn't carry any money. John convinced him to turn himself into a silver coin in which to pay the bartender and charge back when he's not looking. Satan did so, and pressed upon John's unyielding, nefarious tactics. Shrewdly, John stuck the now transmorphified Satan, which is now a coin, into his pocket, which also contained a crucifix, a cross. The cross's presence kept the devil from escaping his pocket and this form. This coerced Satan to agree to John's demands. In exchange for his freedom, he had spared John for 10 years. Remember, it's the 10 kingdoms, the 10 kings, and a short horn. Okay? So, he was supposed to come and collect them forever. Instead, John convinces him. He traps him, okay, because he's a sneaky. He'll pull you into a trap, okay? He'll pull you into a trap. He'll be a trickster, okay? And then he gets 10 years, a short season compared to his whole life. He's given a short 10 years longer, okay? So he gives it to him. He spares John's soul for 10 years, okay? Just like the plagues on Pharaoh. There's 10 plagues. There was only 9 warnings. The 10th one, he hardened his heart and closed the door, okay? I've talked about that so many times. 10 years after the date John originally struck his deal, he naturally found himself once again in the devil's presence. He came to collect his soul. Jack happened upon Satan in the same setting as before, and he seemingly accepted that this time it was time to go to hell for good. As Satan prepared to take John to hell, John asked if he could have an apple to feed his starving belly. Foolishly, Satan once again agreed to this request. As he climbed up the branches of the nearby apple tree, John surrounded its base with crucifixes, with crosses. Like, the Pope carries around his crosses all the time, too. Satan, frustrated at the fact that he had been entrapped again, demanded his release. As Jack did before, he made a second demand that he will never take his soul to hell. Having no choice, the devil agreed and was set free. You got to include Peter in this. Eventually, the drinking took its toll on Jack, and John finally died. John's soul prepared to enter heaven through the gates of St. Peter, but was stopped. John was told by God that because of his sinful lifestyle and deceitfulness and drinking, his greed too, he was not allowed into heaven. John then went down to the gates of hell and begged for admission into the underworld. But Satan, fulfilling his obligation to John, could not take his soul. He gave John an ember, a remnant, to light his way. He illuminated him with the lesser light of Freemasonry, revealing all those secrets of Freemasonry to him, just as he did to Cain, just as he did to Nimrod and all those other, even Solomon. We'll talk about that too. You ever seen the movie Solomon Kane? I suggest you watch it. Okay? It's the same thing. He could not enter heaven. He could not enter hell. So guess what happened? Just like Cain, John is doomed to roam the world between the planes of good and evil with only an ember inside of his hollowed turnip, his hollowed jack-o'-lantern head. They're ultimately heads, his hollowed head, okay, to light his way. All right? Now, here's what that means, okay? Let's recap what we just read. John was living a deceitful, sinful life, and because he did deceitful, sinful things, you got to realize he was due for Satan and hell. Okay, but John's a trickster. Okay, he's a tricky trickster. Okay, he tricked the devil, got out of one time, and then next thing you know, the devil comes again to collect 10 years later, and he tricks him again after the short season. Okay, but then after that, he comes back and he actually asked to go to hell because God won't let him into heaven. And then blam, he can't. He's cursed with the mark of Cain, John is. Okay? John's ultimately cursed not to ascend to the heavens or descend to hell. He's cursed to roam the face of the earth with a illuminated light called a smith. He is a smith now. Now you have John the smith roaming the face of the earth. Okay? Do the math with that. Now let's go on even further because it gets even crazier. All right? So we're done with Stingy Jack, Greedy Jack, Jack the Smith, Drunk Jack, Flaky Jack, Jack-o'-lantern John. Okay? But watch this. Now things are going to get crazy. Like, crazy. Truly. All right? Well, you need to know, Jack-o'-lantern in the stories, in general, when you just talk about Jack-o'-lantern, I want to prove this to you here. Jack-o'-lantern is married to Joan the Wad. Okay? She's the co-horse of Jack-o'-lantern. Okay? Joan the Wad and Jack-o'-lantern. Jack-o'-lantern is the king of pixies. Joan the Wad is the queen of pixies. So you have John and Joan, the king and queen of the pixies. All right? We're going to look at her real quick right after I show you this. We've got to get past this page. I'm going to show you some coincidences if you think some things are coincidences, okay? Watch this. For example, you ready for this? Let's see where, for example, watch this. This guy, John Greenleaf Whitler, okay, is this guy's name, okay? He was born in Massachusetts in 1807 and wrote a poem about the pumpkin, in which he mentions Thanksgiving, but not Halloween. Okay? Now watch. This is wild, okay? Because even in his depictions and stuff, you'll see what it is. Oh, fruit loved, oh boyhood, the old days recalling, when wood grapes were purpling and brown nuts were falling, when wild ugly faces we carved and its skins glaring out through the dark with a candle within. Okay? He writes this story, John does, in the 1850s or 1850 here, called The Pumpkin, in which it's literally talking about a jack-o'-lantern. Okay? A pumpkin with a candle lighting up the dark from within, right? Well, watch this. Here's this next part. Let's see where it is down here. All right. So you know the story of Legend of Sleepy Hollow? We're going to be talking about that shortly. But do you know who wrote that? Washington Irving. But do you know his name? Really what his name is? Like, you're like, his name is Washington Irving. No, guys. Watch. Just like Donald Trump goes by Donald John Trump, he goes by John Titter, he goes by Barron, he goes by many, many things. Look, just like James David Vance also goes by James Donald Vance and et cetera, et cetera. Watch. Washington Irving goes by pen name Jonathan Old Style, meaning he's got an old style. And don't get confused with John Plum, who painted the picture of Washington Irving as well. This is the guy, and it says it right here. Washington Irving is Jonathan Oldstyle. Okay? He is Jonathan Oldstyle. Jonathan Oldstyle is Christopher Irving, who writes the story of Sleepy Hollow. Okay? You're seeing this for yourself. Boom. All right? Which is strange when you think about this. Oh, snap. Washington Irving's parents, okay, were William Irving Sr., okay, and then we got Sarah from England. But that's not the crazy part. They married in 1761 when William was serving as a petty officer in the British Navy. They had 11 children, 8 of whom survived to adulthood. Their first 2 sons died in infancy, both named William, as did their fourth, which was John. Their surviving children were Peter, Catherine, John Treat, and Sarah, and Washington also goes by said John. So he's got Peters and Johns tossed around in that family as well. But then you got this. Presidents John Tyler and James K. Polk. That's weird. I didn't even see that. But let's get past Washington Irving, who wrote and came up with literally the legend of Sleepy Hollow about the headless horseman and the pumpkin. All right, but watch this. All right, here we go. Let's look for more coincidences down here, okay? All right, so here's where you get Jack the Lantern and Joan the Wad. All right? Jack o' Lantern, Joan the Wad, who tickled the maid and made her mad. Light me home, the weather's bad. This is because of this. All right, I'm going to explain to you who Jack o' Lantern and Joan the Wad are. They're both tricksters, and it's kind of messed up, okay? Watch this. Joan the Wad is a mythical character of Cornish folklore. She is the queen of pixies, with tiny mythical creatures usually associated with the countries of Cornwall and Devon in England. Wad is an Eastern Cornwall word for torch. Okay. Joan the Wad is always seen holding up a bundle, a bell, always seen holding up a bundle, a bell of sticks and twigs and branches and wheat. That's a torch, okay? Hence, it's John and Mary. Mother, behold your son. Son, behold your mother. Okay. Well, you need to know this is the Lady Liberty side of that stuff as well. The holding up of the torch. Joan the Wad holds up the torch. She holds up Bell, the Bell Wad, bringing together the one world peace. She holds up the one doing that. She lifts up the child. Semiramis lifted up Tammuz to be the god. Okay. Semiramis It's the same as Ishtar. Ishtar lifted up Horus as Osiris. Bel. She lifted up Bel. Okay? The Bel is a bundle, hence the one world order, the gathering together, the bringing together of a one. All right. But Joan the Wad is the one that's always seen holding up a torch right next to Jack / John O'Lantern, the king of pixies. He's the king of pixies. She's the queen of pixies. The two may also be considered will-o'-wisps type characters who lead travelers astray on lonely moors, hence that rhyme that I read to you earlier. However, when you pray to Mother Mary, watch this. However, Joan is also thought to use her wad torch to light the way to safety and good luck. As another rhyme says, good fortune will nod if you call upon Joan the Wad, Lady Liberty. Okay? Now, here we go again. About to get nuts. All right, so here's some more things about her. Joan the Wad is a mythical character in Cornish folklore and is the queen of pixies. Joan the Wad is a mythical queen who lives in the moors and guides travelers to safety with the light of her torch, also known as the Wad. She is associated with good fortune and thought to be lucky. Joan the Wad is associated with Jack O'Lantern, the king of pixies. The two are said, just like Jack and Sally, by the way, is what you got there, John and Sally. Okay? The king of pixies. The two are said to sometimes lead travelers astray on the Cornish moors. Joan the Wad is often depicted carrying a torch. Joan the Wad became famous as a lucky charm in Cornwall, and people would order good fortune from her in magazine and newsletters. People still carry small figures of Joan the Wad for good luck. The museum of which in Boscastle has small collection of these figures. Joan the Wad is also a name for Cornish jewelry and piskie outlet that sells a variety of Cornish jewelry, including etc. etc. All right. All right. So there's that about Joan the Wad. Let's see what else we can find here, because this is a little bit more on her that gets a little crazy. All right, watch this. This stuff blew my mind yesterday. All right. Okay. Yeah, this one's pretty much just a recap. Yeah, I'm ready to move forward to the next part. Okay, so now there's Jack O'Lantern and Joan the Wad. Jack and Sally, Jack and Diane also, if you want to be specific. You guys want to see something funny? You know the song Jack and Diane? Well, it's by John Mellencamp. Okay? Jack and Diane. Yeah, I know you know that song. Okay? Old one. And here we go. John Mellencamp then performing as John Cougar in his many names. So there's that too, Jack and Diana. Jack and Diana, the light bearer lifting up Bell. It's a coincidence, right? I bet so. All right, let's go on even further, okay? What about this one? Let's talk about other languages in the world, okay? You guys ever heard of Jack of the Bow? Jack of the Bow? No? No? Huh? Right. In Swiss folklore, Jack of the Bow or Jack of the Bow is a helpful house spirit and variously described as a brownie or kobold. Do you know what a brownie is? A little demon thing, a little goblin, a little house goblin. Okay? Kind of like Trumpkin, the hobgoblin, who's lifted up as literally who? Well, he's made the king. What's it called? He's the king of I can't remember what it was. And who does he work with? Peter, Edmund, and Lucy. Lucy, Peter, Edmund, Susan, and Lucy, okay? It's his accomplices. And oh yeah, here comes. He becomes Lord Regent. He becomes Bell Regent. He becomes Don Regent of Narnia, Trumpkin does, portrayed by Peter Dinklage. Trumpkin does, okay? But let's move past that, all right? You can't make this stuff up. Watch this. Let's move forward, okay? I don't want you to see that yet. Okay, but look, Jack of the Bow, he's a house spirit, he's a brownie, he's a munchkin, he's a pumpkin, he's a trumpkin, or a cobalt. He is otherwise known as Jean de la Bolite. I have no idea how to speak that language, but let's say it again. It was fun. He is otherwise known as John de la Bolita. That's a spicy meatball. Okay. All right. Nice. All right. So there's that. But he's also called Hans. Let's see if I can speak German. Nef Hans. Because you know Hans is John as well. Okay. So I told you Jack is once again referred to as John and Hans. All right. Oh, Hanen. Okay. In return for like Jan Schmidt that worked next to Hitler, John Smith was the mastermind, the master blacksmith behind Hitler. John Schmidt. Jan Schmidt. Okay, Hans Schmidt. All right. In return for a bowl of sweet cream left out for him each night, he would lead the cows a graze in places considered dangerous to humans. But none of the cows ever suffered injury. The path used by him was always cleared of stones, no matter how rocky the mountainside was. And his came to be known as Bolita's path or John's path. Okay, so he becomes a shepherd of the sheep. That's what's happening there. All right. Awesome. I love that. Let me see. George. Yes. All right. So I wanna tell you guys why I really wanted to do this live stream today. It's been a lot of heavy stuff presented lately, okay? Noahide is real. Okay. There's actually a tsunami that happened today in Japan that I actually said was going to take place last year. Boom, here we're coming. All right. You have a huge 6.9 earthquake took place, and now they got their tsunami warming happening out there in Japan because they're building up to what's believed as the instability of the Earth's surface. All right. Well, we've been talking a lot of heavy stuff lately, so I wanted to have a lot of fun with you guys today and encourage you to see that light can still exist in the darkness as long as there's good fellowship of like-minded believers centered around wanting to learn more about God and His Word and things that are in this world that are of Him and things He's got His hands on. Okay? All right. So here we are smiling even in the face of the apocalypse, okay? It's nice to get a little bit of light laughter in there. So yes, that's funny to me, George. But let's keep on going, okay? Now that we know that Jack is Jean de la Bolita and Nuff Hans, okay? And John, Stingy John, and John Smith. Wow, this is crazy to me. Since we just combined all of the videos we've done, it's just crazy. All right, let's move forward because this is about to get crazier, all right? Let's see when, all right, guys. This blew my mind. Do you know what's really weird? The pumpkins, like jack-o'-lantern pumpkins, you can only date them back to the 1600s. Do you remember after the Garden of Eden, there started to be a mix of things in the world, okay? And like you remember in like Beauty and the Beast, you have Prince Adam who's turned into a beast, okay? But he keeps a rose, a beautiful rose that had thorns and thistles take over it, okay? Like he wanted to go back to Rose, like Jack and Rose from the Titanic, okay? But anyway, he has that rose. It's beautiful to look at, but it's got thorns on it and it's contained in a dome, okay? Well, it's not to the end that the dome was broken and he can reach in and grab that rose, okay? That he returns back to Prince Adam, okay, himself. Human form. Okay? Even that is him and Baal. All right? But anyway, do you know that once again, Satan was released, as I believe, all around that time, the 1500s forward. I believe he mixed some things in. This is why we have the pine trees and pine cones, which are thorn plants. Okay? The useless trees of the apocalypse that I've talked about in many videos for a while. Okay? The useless trees of the apocalypse, the obsession with the pine cone is not just the pineal gland, but it's the erection of the earth's thorn. Pine trees themselves put off zero oxygen. Look into that stuff yourself. Okay, they put off less oxygen than any other tree, and yet it's what's scattered all around. It's what we print our money on. We print our money on pine trees. I live in North Carolina. Heading down south to the land of the pine. I stumbled my way into North Carolina, which I ain't been to in a long time. I miss home, but man, it's just covered with pine, useless pine cone trees where they can print money so quick. They can pull up those trees. I'm not kidding. 5 years, they'll chop them things up. Okay, not even. It says, doom, 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 doom. They'll grow, 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 grow. They're money trees. That's where the Bible itself nowadays is printed on pine paper. The pine cone. Okay. So like I said, a lot of this stuff, you got to realize, I believe, came back on the scene recently, especially this thing, which dates back to the 1600s. Watch. So Connecticut field pumpkins are, this is the ones used for the jack-o'-lanterns is what I'm talking about, the specific pumpkin for that when it started. So watch this. Connecticut field pumpkins are a type of pumpkin that first attested in the 16th century. They are one of the oldest varieties, and yet they're first attested in the 16th century of pumpkins in existence and are known as heirloom plant. One of the most popular pumpkin seeds. Most popular Halloween pumpkins. Connecticut field pumpkins are commonly used for autumn decorations and jack-o'-lanterns. A strain of Connecticut field pumpkins have been described as the original commercial jack-o'-lantern pumpkin. Okay? Watch this, though. Do you know what's crazy? Watch this. Now, pumpkin seeds, they kill parasites big time. Do you remember I told you the importance of the Native Americans, that 90% of them were killed and the last 10% were put into slavery, as the word says, after the 1,000-year reign. You're put into captivity. They turn all the rulers against one another and stir up wars against the nation surrounding that remnant that was left behind, that is now scattered with tares and wheats, and it just is what it is. I'm not talking about Native American themselves, the only ones. You need to know that. I've talked about that in depth. I'm saying the New World was put in for a reason. Okay. Well, do you know when this pumpkin plant erected in this time? Do you know that, like right now, people are just finding out about pumpkin seeds real big, about how the detox property of parasites? Well, watch this. Right here, it talks about, where are we at? All right, so it talks about them being used by the Native Americans for medicinal purposes, but I had a thing somewhere else. I don't want to scroll too much and lose where I'm at, but there's something else we're going to get to in a little bit when it talks about the importance of those pumpkins during the Native American times and purging parasites that took over the face of the earth during that time. But watch this. Here we go. I'm going to show you something crazy with said coincidences again. Do you know who carved the first pumpkin? Anybody want to take a guess who carved the first pumpkin, a first jack-o'-lantern ever? Supposedly. Do you know what his name was? Anybody want to tell me? Okay. All right, watch. The pumpkins may have many shapes and sizes, but they are commonly round. The Connecticut field pumpkin is 15 pounds in size and is round and orange and smooth and slightly ribbed skin. The Howden pumpkin was developed by John Howden and is a strain selected from the Connecticut field pumpkin for improved production and uniformity of its fruits. Okay, hence why it's called the Howden pumpkin, is based off John Howden. Okay, but here we go. The Native Americans taught the colonists that they would get higher yields per acre if they planted potatoes or corn in the same field as pumpkins. In 1906, the South Dakota State Horticultural Society recommended that 6 seeds be planted within hills of dirt approximately 8 feet apart. After the plants grew into seedlings, we don't have to read all into all that stuff. You know pumpkins and how they work, okay? Just want to show you that about John on this page, and the fact that the first ever carving pumpkin during this time, all this crazy mess that we just pulled up here, okay? It's crazy. But let's move on even further. All right? Now you know about the Connecticut field pumpkin and the jack-o'-lantern / the John-o'-lantern that was created and developed by John Holden, hence the Holden pumpkin, Connecticut pumpkin for carving pumpkin John-o'-lanterns. Okay, but let's talk about the will-o'-wisp. Okay, the will-o'-wisp is another name for the jack-o'-lantern. Okay, like for example, if you watch the movie Brave, they're the blue flame light. Okay, the lesser light. They're the blue flame light that led what's her name? Mary, I can't remember her name. Marienda, I can't remember her name. Led the daughter, the redheaded crazy arrow shooting girl, okay, led her astray and tricked her, and it turned her mom into a beast because of where it led her to a witch. And then the witch turned her mom into a beast, for I don't know how many days. It was probably 7 days that the will-o-wisp deceived her and turned her mom into a beast, where she had to literally fight as a bear against Marduk, who was actually the oldest of the tribes, was the man that put himself as king, and he was marked on his eye and turned into a bear called Marduk, who had to go against his mom, which turned into a bear as well, marked as a beast. And it's all centered around these will-o-wisps, these foolish flames, or what they call it in Latin, that led them astray to their doom. Now watch. In folklore, the will-o-wisp, or ignis fatuus, which in Latinus means foolish flame, okay, is an atmospheric ghost light seen by travelers at night, especially over bogs, swamps, and marshes, foggy areas. Okay? The phenomenon is known in the United Kingdom by varieties of names, including John-o'-lanterns, Frere's lantern, and Hinky Punk, which is weird, and is said to mislead or guide travelers by resembling a flickering lamp or lantern. Okay? But let's look into this a little bit further, all right? Like this picture of the will-o-wisp and the snake. Let's keep on going here. All right. I want to see what else there was down here about will-o-wisp before I show you something crazy. Oh, yeah, here we go. Let's look at the folklore, because here's something by St. Peter. So let's see what it says. No, I figured out what I was going to tell you now. Here we go. All right. In certain tales, the protagonist's names are either Will or Jack. Will and Jack, there's two of them, like James and John. There's two of them. There's a Will and a Jack, and they're doomed to haunt marshes with a light for some misdeed that they did. Some versions from Shropshire is recounted by Briggs in a dictionary of fairies and refers to Will Smith, aka now we have a John Smith and Will Smith. Okay, John Smith and Will Smith are doomed to the face of the earth with a false light to lead people. Okay, Will is a wicked, literally blacksmith, like I was telling you. So now not only is John the greedy blacksmith, but now you have a Will, the wicked blacksmith, who was given a second chance by St. Peter at the gates of heaven, but leads such a bad life that he ends up being doomed to wander the earth. So here's the second story. Now you have Stingy Jack and Will Smith. Okay? You have John Smith and Will Smith who are stuck to wander the earth, not ascending to heaven or hell, right? But do you know what else is crazy? Don't get them confused with William Turner and Jack Sparrow from the Pirates, the one-eyed Pirates of the Caribbean. Do you know who Orlando? Look, you already know that Johnny Depp plays Jack Sparrow. You have a John playing Jack. But do you know who William Turner is played by? Orlando Bloom, everybody says, but you don't even know his middle name. Orlando Jonathan Bloom. So you have this story of the Pirates of the Caribbean. Two men obsessed with one girl. Two men obsessed with one girl. John and John, Will and Jack. Jack and Will. Dead man's chest. John becomes the one with the key to open Davy Jones' locker and bring the Kraken up from the bottom of the ocean. Jack Sparrow does. William Turner is the good guy, sweet boy in the background who ends up making himself king of said bottomless pit. Bootstrap John. William Turner the blacksmith. Even in Pirates of the Caribbean, it's Will Turner the blacksmith and his flying chariot in the sky. He becomes, look, James wanted to make himself captain. Greatest. James the blacksmith becomes the captain of the Flying Dutchman, the chariot in the sky. With his accomplice of the sea, as above, so below, Jack Sparrow, Johnny Depp. Will's son Henry breaks the trident of Poseidon, ending the sea curses and freeing Will from the Dutchman. This is crazy. Okay? So don't get Will-o-wisp and Jack-o'-lantern confused with Orlando Jonathan Bloom and Johnny Depp / Jack and Will blacksmiths. Pirates. Taking over with the eye. Absolutely. You know what, Chad? And see, people are like, how is this even possible? Like, they think that this is all coincidence. Have you not seen what a cell phone is? Take a cell phone apart and look at the chip, and then zoom in on that chip until your magnifying glass can't no more, and then get a freaking microscope and look at the technology in that inside of that stuff. If they can create technology like that, can they not think simple enough to do this? So you got to realize the Kabbalah itself is centered around a lot of what we talk about. It's crazy. Fruition, bringing stuff in. Who's to say that said roaming three frog-like spirits that come up in the end like a false prophet out of the mouth of the dragon, false prophet, and the beast are the three frog-like spirits, the green pope, black pope, and green, black, and gray pope, or however you want to call them. Okay, those three spirits that wander on the earth in these days, who's to say they can't only take over people that share the name of said original host? Absolutely. I wouldn't put it past anything like that. They are beyond our intelligence. We use like 10 to 15% of our brain. I feel like sometimes, boy, mine is cranking it out, but they're using a lot in all of theirs. So, absolutely. Good point, Chad. Very good point. Boy, this is going to get crazy. I can't wait to get to this other stuff, man. I got to take a breather. Oh, man, there's a banana. All right. Here we go. Don't listen to me, too. I said eat something. All right. 1 second. Maybe I'll get some ASMR viewers that like watching people eat up here. All right. Let's look at some crazy stuff here, folks. Crazy stuff here. Crazy stuff. All right. So now that we know about Will-O-Wisp or Will Smith and Jack Turner slash Jack Smith slash John Smith. Now that we know about John Smith and James Smith ultimately, the two Smiths made to be wonders of the earth, enlightened by Freemasonry. Let's look on even further. This is a lot of fun. Okay, this is a lot of fun. I bet you won't carve a pumpkin from this day forth. All right. I wouldn't take part in the light burial of Lucifer. Okay. We've already went through this. I just want to make sure if I went forward. All right, now we're gonna get into some crazy stuff. Remember, I've been showing you guys the importance of understanding that John is indeed the headless horseman, pushing Noahide laws and the beheading of the camp of saints. Now I'm going to prove that to you. Now's the time we settle down just a little bit and watch. Okay? Here we go. Let's look at the book. Washington Irving, which, like I said, is Jonathan. I can't remember what his last name is. Washington Irving is John. That's what he goes by. No joke. Okay, in case you're new to just coming in, I just want to show you again. Washington Irving is Jonathan Old Style. He's been around a long time. Donald Trump's not a time traveler. He is enlightened. Okay? Donald Trump is not a time traveler. He's enlightened. I hope you're understanding this now. All right. So I want to show you this. Washington Irving slash Jonathan Oldstyle's Gothic story of the legend of Sleepy Hollow, because everybody's asleep in the hollow and they're losing their heads for their old things they've done. Okay. Features a character known as the Headless Horseman, believed to be a Hessian soldier. What? A German Nazi? Oh, I shouldn't have said that word. Entertainment purposes only. I'm just pointing out things. German and that stuff is related. Okay, YouTube, back off. Okay, he was decapitated by a cannonball in the battle during the American War of Independence. AKA, he suffered a head wound in Germany and come back alive in the Americas. Do you remember I've been telling you guys about that whole decode of first to the Jews, then to the Gentiles? First the Holocaust and then the American Holocaust? Okay. Please keep all that in mind. Watch this, guys. Features a character known as the Headless Horseman, believed to be a Hessian soldier who was decapitated, suffered a head wound during the War of Independence, freedom, Lady Liberty, but he came back. Irving traveled to Germany in 1821 and had become familiar with Dutch and German folklore. In particular, the last and legend von Rufzahl, the Legends of Rufzahl. Guess who wrote it? Johann in Germany. Karl August Massal is said to have inspired the legend of Sleepy Hollow. So now you have Jonathan Oldstyle writing the story of the Headless Horseman, inspired by Jean Karl August Massus. America is Babylon, if you're not putting that together, which is ancient Egypt, old Egypt, which is also old everything else. Hence why the oldest ever pumpkins are in the Americans. They're traced here. It's what we just read earlier too, along with the fact that a lot of the Bible stories, those animals are only native here. Even Ra himself is represented by a bird that is only found in the Americas. Both his hawk form and his falcon form. And the rams that were caught in the wild brush during the sacrifice of Abraham and Isaac, they're only found over there by the Promised Land, California. That's where the rams are native to. Okay. So let's get past this. The Sleepy Hollow itself, about the Headless Horseman who suffers a head wound and comes back, who we know is John. John suffers a head wound and comes back. Okay. All right. John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith is John James Jingleheimer Smith. John James Smith. His name is my name and your name too, is what he says. Okay. All of this is tied into, like I said, Germany. Okay. Let's see. Let's keep on going. All right. Boom. We can exile that one. Now let's look at Sleepy Hollow. Let's not forget who played Ichabod Crane. Well, Johnny Depp is Ichabod Crane. Okay? Johnny Depp is Ichabod Crane. But you know what's crazy? Her dad in the movie is played by John. Okay? So she has a husband named John and a daddy named John. Strange. Okay? Not to mention this. Let's look at some other stuff. Do you know it has flashbacks in the movie? About like his old life, about his old Crane, because remember his wife died. Most people don't even know that Ichabod Crane had an ex-wife who died, but he did. Watch this. Do you know who plays, first of all, Lord Crane in his flashbacks, meaning his dad? Peter. Peter is Johnny Depp's dad, in charge of him, okay? But here's something else, okay? Where is the... All right. Come on, where you at? I wanted to show you his wife, Crane. Hold on one sec. It's in here. I just got to pull it up. I know you're here. Okay, Tron. Oh, here's Michael playing James Hendrock, by the way, the notary. Here we go. Lady Crane in the flashbacks, okay? Watch this. It's played by Lisa Mary Smith. Remember, it's John and Mary. James, John, and Mary, and Smith. Always. Okay? Well, that's Lady Crane. Okay? Master Crane is Peter, who plays John Crane, who plays Ichabod Crane / Johnny Depp's daddy. Do all the math with that, okay? And then watch this. If you think it's a coincidence, well, watch this. What about The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad? Directed by Ben Sharpstein and Jack Ryan Kinley, which is really John Ryan Kinley. So meaning this, even this story was written by Jack, which is John, okay? John Ryan Kinley, who goes by Jack, and also James Alger. Okay, James Alger. At the same thing over and over and over and over and over. Edited by John as well. Okay, and we can go on and on and on. So even this, like I said, even this old story is written by James and John and put out by the same mess. If you think it's coincidence, you're about an hour and 10 minutes into coincidences. That's what you think, okay? But let's see if there was anything else up here. I don't think there's anything else. This is all the same story as the Headless Horseman. I just wanted to show you all the same mess. The district attorney's played by John. James plays Cyril, whatever her name is. Eric plays James Thaddeus. Oh my goodness. It is what it is. Pick it up or put it down. All right. All right. Watch this. Now let's go even further. This all comes down to Jack Skeleton. You remember Jack and Sally? Well, Jack and Sally, Jack Skeleton. All right. Let's look at him a little bit. Which, like I said, we know now is John. Okay. Jack Skeleton is John Skeleton. All right. And Sally Skeleton is Mother Mary. Okay. All right. Hope you're putting that together. As far as like that whole dark side of everything we've been talking about. Okay. All right. Let me see. Just want to see if there was anything else down here I want to show you just from him. Jack Skeleton introduced himself to Sora, Goofy, and Donald Duck as the ruler of Halloween Town. We also know about Donald Duck, right? Donald Duck's partner in crime is Peter Pig, and they're deceitful. And they try to team up against the mother hen and her chicks, okay? They try to rule over them and trick the hen, and like they play sick and all stuff. I went over that decode with you. It's Donald Duck and Peter Pig. We talked about big time. All right. So strange that they even tie him in with Donald Duck in general. It's crazy they tied Jack Skeleton in with Donald Duck, which is, centered around Donald Trump. Okay. Wild, wild, wild. What? James and the Giant Peach, okay, makes a cameo as Captain Jack. And the centipede says a skeleton, making James and the Giant Peach references to Jack Skeleton, even in that movie. Man, I could probably find all kind of stuff down here. I didn't even read this earlier. Anyway, let's go on here because this is where things get nuts. Let's think up real hard about a character who has two sides, a dark side and a light side, okay? Like Jacqueline Hyde. I've never seen so much in one thing. Watch this. Let's look at Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde. Did you know that there was a Sister Hyde? Absolutely. Watch this. Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde is a 1971 British horror film directed by Roy Ward Baker and starring Ralph Bates. Do you know what Ralph Bates is known for? This is the main character, by the way. Dr. Jekyll is Ralph Bates. But do you know what this boldly puts? Look, Ralph Bates was an English film and television actor known for his role in British sitcom Dear John. You're like, that's a coincidence. Watch this. And Martine Breeswick, okay, whose name is Mary Rose. Do you think this is a coincidence that you also have John, Jack, and Mary here? Dr. Jekyll is John. Sister Hyde is Mary Rose. Let's wait till that hits you. And it's edited by James Needs. Okay. Now, do that math again. According to this, Dr. Jack was played by a guy known for his role as Dear John. And the woman, Sister Hyde, is played by Martine Breeswick, which is her real name is Mary Rose. Now I'm really going to blow your mind with some stuff that freaked me out. I didn't know how serious this stuff got, because I've already even pointed out that during the witch trials, the number one name that was persecuted was Mary, followed by John, even during the Salem witch trials. Because it says they'll go after the woman who gave birth to the child, and then after that, the child ascends to the heaven, but the woman is taken away by a right wing and a left wing who wanted to be the greatest in the kingdoms, okay, for a time and half a time, but then they turn into perdition. They go into destruction. They go into destroyers. The three evil spirits do in the end. To fulfill the will of the Father ultimately. Even Satan fulfills the will of the Father. So, watch how deep this stuff goes. Let's look at Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper was a unidentified serial killer, so they call him John Doe, Jack the Ripper. who was active in and around Improvise Vision, whatever, in London in 1888, which is a repeat cycle. I want to show you guys something. Do you know who Jack the Ripper killed first? Marianne Nichols. Do you know who Jack the Ripper killed last? Mary Jane Kelly, also known as Mary Jeanette Kelly, or Emma, or Dark Mary, or Black Mary. Now you have John Doe, John the Ripper, who kills Mary Ann Nichols and kills Black Mary Jane, and also Elizabeth Swann. Remember, it's Johnny Depp, Jack Sparrow, and John Orlando Bloom, and Elizabeth Swann, the Swan Princess, or Emma Swan. Okay? Now, I hope you're seeing this. Okay? You see, once again, Jack the Ripper story is even about John Doe, who goes after Mary the woman and Mary the woman, Mary Jane, like Peter Parker and Mary Jane. Okay? Crazy that even this happened to be a coincidence. I can't stand it when someone says coincidence because of this. They're like, what the? I believe it's a coincidence, but then they'll go and quote the Bible. The Bible never teaches any bit of coincidence, but rather sovereign plan and purpose, and everything is God's timing and hand. Don't do stuff by accident. Okay? Absolutely right. Trump is Osiris, not Cyrus. So there's all this, but check this out. The first two cases in the Whitechapel murder files was Emma Elizabeth Smith and Martha Tabram, which was in that file. But I just wanted to point out, even the Smith is in that. You have John, Mary, and Smith all in one sentence, along with Elizabeth Swann. Okay? All right. I don't know if you're new here, T Marv. That's all I do. Literally, you're on one video of about a 200 and some. That's all I do. So anyway, maybe catch up on stuff before you critique and criticize. Watch what's presented in front of you to its fullest instead of distracting others that are coming in new as well. All right, so let's keep on going here even further. Mary Jane Kelly. I don't want to read any more of that. Now I want to show you this. I found this very interesting as we talk about coincidences. Look, Elizabeth writes an article about this. They literally call China Hydra, and they call Donald Trump the Headless Horseman. Don't believe me? Watch this. Okay. China's Communist Party is like the mythological Hydra of ancient Greece, a multi-headed serpentine beast that can approach its prey from multiple directions, feinting and distracting before eventually attacking. Cut off only one of its 9 heads, and 2 will grow in its place. Notice it don't have the 10th one. Okay? And grow instead. President Trump, whose nightly briefings are destined to become late-night horror comedy classics, is like the Headless Horseman, a malevolent ghost, a spirit, a dweller on the earth, riding without his head, carrying a jack-o'-lantern in its stead. This lady, literally Elizabeth, refers to Donald Trump not only as the Headless Horseman, but also jack-o'-lantern. Call it a coincidence if you want. Donald Trump is Apollyon, the Black Horseman, who brings the disease and the cure. The first mission, Apollyon mission, was NASA. The first deception mission is NASA, where they put a false light deceiving people. He brings the disease so that later he's got an excuse for aliens coming down so that way he can be lifted up as a hero. Apollo, who was born in the middle of the space race, 1 year after Hitler's death. Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Okay? All right. There you go. I hope you're understanding this, okay? Even this talks about the same thing. All right? So there's all that. Now, I hope you got all that and put all that mess in your head together, okay? Because that was really, really a whole lot of stuff. If you came in late, you missed a lot of stuff at the beginning. If this is your first ever video, you've missed about, I don't know how many hours I have over here on StreamYard, a whole lot, hundreds, okay? That you can listen to that just amplify this times 1,000, okay? All right. So I hope you guys got a lot of this. Let me get my chat box going over here and see what we got going on here. All right. Welcome, welcome, sweet. All right, not seeing any questions really. Let me get down here a little bit more. All right, sweet. All right. Well, see a lot about the plasma stuff. Miss Valentine, I see that you have done some gifting with memberships. Thank you so much for helping others out so that they can come and listen to some things as well and have some discernment and learn. Awesome. Don't really see any big questions as I scroll through here. I try my best to stay out of the chat box during my videos now because I get kind of distracted with my ADHD to the max. All right. Okay. I don't really see anything down here. Nice. Did they go bad? Absolutely. You remember, you got to understand that's the whole point of this. That's why the first pope and the last pope Peter's a thing. It says they go into perdition. Okay. Perdition is that word that's inserted in English the way it is to cover up. They become a destroyer. They go into destruction to do the will of the Father. That's the whole thing. That's what makes all this possible. Is the Father uses his hands, his right and his left hands to control things. Okay. In this story, you need to know that it is what it is. Seems Peter, James, and John are the three spirits of the apocalypse that go to do the will of the Father. You need to know Satan did the will of the Father. I want to point something out very clear to those that are deceived by the modern day 501c3 blind led blind under the obelisk steeple of Rome, false Sabbath created on the 66th day of the year. 3 plus 2 plus 1 is 6. 321 AD. You have Constantine change the mark that God gives his people as an eternal, everlasting covenant, as the Sabbath written in stone as one of the 10 commandments, to Sunday as the mark of the authority of Rome, where the blind guides lead the blind into apostasy and paganism, which is why most of the people that watch this later on are the ones that sat in the churches during Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, and Halloween, covered and surrounded by pumpkins, Christmas trees, and Santa Claus. Okay. You are part of the worship mark of the beast. Okay. There's also a mark on your wrist and your forehead. There's three things you look for: a mark on your wrist or your forehead, and a worship of the beast that hits the mark. That's why they call it the mark of authority of Rome. Okay. Which is blue law, blue blood law, coppertine, serpentine law, Vatican law, beast law. Okay. I want to show you something in closing here tonight that should really help you understand why this is a thing. All right. You know, this verse here is skipped in your churches because a pastor that's up there preaching Trinity can't possibly explain himself. Okay. You know, when Isaiah said this, you know, God does these things. I form the light and I create the darkness. And this is the Old Testament. I make peace and I create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. How does he do that? Well, let's look at this. Okay. All right. Let's read this in context now. Okay. Now that you know that even Christ said, no one knows the day or the hour, not even me, only my Father. And then he says, my Father is greater than me. And then he also said, Thomas and all of them that were doing what they were doing, he said, get off me, don't cling to me. I've not yet ascended to my Father and your Father and my God and your God. And then in Revelation, he tells John, he says, you don't worship me, you worship God. I am the bright and morning star. I'm the bright morning star. That's him. He's the bright morning star. Satan is the morning star. There is a greater light and a lesser light. Christ sits at the right hand in the mercy seat, offering salvation and forgiveness of sins. Okay? Satan sits on the left hand side as the leftist. Okay? He's there accusing and condemning and bringing darkness and death as Christ brings light and life. Both of those only do the will of the Father. The darkness over the face of the deep had to exist in order for light to come afterwards. Okay? Satan and those 12 Atlantean titans of the deep, that stuff had to exist before you have a Christ figure and a 12 righteous come into the world. You must have a dark side in order to have a light side. That's why there's the story of Satan and Lilith tied in with the story of Adam and Eve. That's why it says, you know, no joke, the sons of God saw the daughters of men and came down unto them and multiplied. Well, Christ makes it clear when the Pharisees said that he was claiming to be God Most High, he says, no, I have claimed to be the Son of God, and ye are trying to kill me. All because he said, is it not written in the law that ye are gods, given authority to judge? One judges righteously, one condemns. You have been given authority to judge. That's why they have to have the commandment. Have no other gods before the Most High. Even Christ presents to man. Look, in the story of Job, this is what happened, and it's so simple. If you've fallen for the Trinity lie that was developed the same day as Sunday worship on the 66th day of the year by the Council of Nicaea, which today is the Council of 300, wake up and come out of Babylon and come out of those pews that are set up exactly like a courthouse. Okay? Please, wake up. All right? All right. Well, watch this. Let me get my screen share pulled up in the story of Job real quick for you guys to close. All right. Boom. And boom. And boom. And boom. All right. Or just whichever. Don't matter. Okay. Check this out. All right. All right. Here we go. Satan's first attack. Read this with me. All right. Now there was, listen, you need to know. In the genealogy of Christ, this is some amazing stuff you got to put in there. Watch this. There's only one person in the Bible who's called specifically a son of God outside of Yeshua himself. Christ claims to be the first and the last, right? Well, watch. That's going to take me right to Luke, where it says literally this. In the Bible, Adam is referred to as the Son of God. In Luke chapter 3, verse 38, as Yeshua is the first presented and Adam being the last, but that's flipped. Adam being the first and Christ being the last. So that's why it says the first Adam became a living soul. The last Adam became a life-giving spirit. But he claimed to be with the Father at the beginning, alone with the Father. That's why he said it's not good for man to be alone. And then he brought in Eve. After everything that was given life was named by Adam. Adam named everything that was given life and was given dominion over everything that was given life. And then Eve was also given life from Adam. Therefore, she couldn't even take credit for it, and even he couldn't take credit for it because the Most High put him to sleep to bring forth life through Adam. Okay? Darkness was brought through the black sun, the lesser light. Light was brought through the light sun, the greater light, the light of the world. Okay? Adam is indeed the Son of God, and it's only one time in the Bible it says specifically that someone is the Son of God, and that's Adam's the Son of God, and Yeshua is the Son of God. Adam's the first, Yeshua is the last. All right. Now, okay, but here's this. Job, to prove my point even further. Now there was a day when the sons of God Now there was a day that the sons of God multiple. came to present themselves before the Lord. And Satan Satan also came amongst them and answered to the Lord. No, and the Lord said unto Satan, whence comest thou? For those that don't think that he can go to the heavens and on earth, you need to know. Read what's right in front of you. Then Satan answered to the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth and walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, who went up there to communicate as the sons of God's did, okay? All right. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job? Okay. You got to realize even God is like, hey, I know you're looking at everybody, but look down there at Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and outsheweth evil. Then Satan answered the Lord and said, doth Job fear God for nothing? Hast thou not made a hedge around him and about his house and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substances has increased in the land. Pay attention. But put forth thine hand now. Remember, he hands Christ the scroll to go and do what he has to do at the end. He hands authority to the Son for a righteous judgment at the end. But right now, Satan's telling him to stretch forth his hand now and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee in his face. So guess what happened? And the Lord said unto Satan, okay, I'm going to hand authority over to you. You now have the hand. And the Lord said to Satan, behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon himself put not forth your hand now, Satan. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord to do what he had to do. Okay. There is a right hand and there is a left hand. That's why in Revelation 2 and 3, Christ says, I will give them the morning star. Hence why you have to give authority back over to the kings and the rulers for a short season and a short time, and the dragon gets it as well, okay? That's why he gives them the warnings. Chapter 2 and 3 of Revelation is a bunch of warnings. Warning, 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 warning. If you endure, you'll receive a prize, and I will give them, meaning those that remain behind, the morning star. Okay? All right. There you go. So I hope that you get all this, all right? If you have questions about the first and last Adam, there's a lot of videos on that and scripture behind all of that, okay? You need to know why the Father and the Son was combined it as the same in the 66th day of the year in 321 when the Council of Nicaea had their meeting and erected the first ever steeple of obelisk on the pagan temple assembled by hands of man. Okay? All right? Now, there's all that. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you got something from it. I still got that banner up there. I do see that. Sorry about that. Let me get that off. This gets on my nerves sometimes. Comments. That's what it is. Hide current comment. Okay, cool. I hope you got something out of this. I'll try and go live again here shortly in the next couple of days. But this is what I got for you. If you enjoyed it, let me know below. And if you could, hit the share button, like button, whatever you want to on the way in and out. And I will see you on the next one. I love you guys. And good night and or day wherever you are in the world from beyond the veil.